So you learned a go-to brush pattern from those books with all the squiggly arrows, but when you go to comp, it feels awkward and chunky and not authentic. If this is happening to you, it's because you don't know how to keep your drive in your brushes. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to comp any jazz phrase while keeping the drive in your brushes so you can sound authentic and play anything on the brushes that you would play with sticks. So when we first learn brushes, most of us learn it in terms of kind of like these patterns and shapes. And that's really important because the coordination of going side to side is very different from the coordination of playing the ride cymbal. But what's really different about playing the brushes is that when you're comping with sticks, you have your one hand that's keeping the time driving forward and your other hand that's doing the comping. When you're comping with brushes, your right hand is doing both the comping and being the ride cymbal. So as soon as you start to break up the flow and the drive, it can feel very awkward and chunky if you don't have the right techniques. And then what that feels like is, you've built up all this coordination and all these ideas for comping when you have your sticks, but then when you go to play the brushes, you're still hearing those same ideas, but they don't come out of your hands, okay? So if this is happening to you, it's because you haven't built up something I call comp drive coordination, okay? What that is, when you're comping, you don't want to like break up the brush pattern, right? And lose the drive like this. Right? You can hear the brush coming off the head a lot, and that loses its forward momentum. What you want to do is to keep the brushes on the head most of the time and keep the drive going, especially with your left hand, so that it continues to have momentum. Right? But this takes some coordination. So it's kind of like an airplane, right? If the airplane is at cruising altitude and they're continuing along at a good speed, then everybody can move around the cabin, right? You can comp freely if the drive is there. But if we start to lose the drive, we start to lose some of the altitude, then everybody needs to go in their seats and just stay home. And then that's when you get stuck just playing your same pattern over and over again. So what we're going to do is we're going to build up the coordination so that you can keep that airplane at cruising altitude and you can comp more freely. So if you want to develop comp drive coordination, the first step is you need to have a good go-to brush pattern for medium swing, okay? So the one I like to do is this. Right? The basics of it is that my left hand is doing circles. I'm going 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. So my left hand is coming across the drum on 2 and 4. My right hand is going across the top of the drum like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. And when I do those together, I get this kind of in-out thing going on. Now, some of you might, instead of doing circles with your left hand, you might go back and forth. That's totally fine. It's the same kind of effect. It's just slightly different coordination. But the idea is that you just need to have something where your left hand is on the drum making some sort of sweep and your right hand is playing the cymbal beat. Okay. Now, once you have that baseline, you need to start to think about how you're going to break it up and play all the different subdivisions. And we do this with something we call a grid, which is where you go through all the different combinations of where you could accent, right? So the first combination would be me just accenting beat 1 like this. Okay, couple things there. I'm keeping my left hand going, even though I'm doing the accent. That's pretty easy for this one. The other thing is that I kind of have to change my ride cymbal pattern a little bit, because if I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, then I have to do this really fast, like skip beat to accent. That just makes the flow very awkward. And we don't need that skip beat that badly. It's better for us to just make that a quarter note. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 instead of 4, 1, so that the flow is better, right? So the first permutation is this. Okay, the next permutation is going to be the and one. Now, a lot of people will play this one with their left hand. right? That's totally fair game. You can definitely do this. But since in this video, I really want to focus on keeping the left hand on the drum, we're actually going to do it with our right hand for this one, okay? So the way that this one plays out, it's like this. Uh, so the way that this one plays out is like this. Right? You can see that I'm playing the accent on the and a one. I'm keeping my left hand, making it circles. But what I have to do here is I have to break up the ride cymbal again. Instead of going 1, 2, right, and going straight into beat 2, it's a little too soon after the accent. In jazz, if we have an accent on an offbeat, we kind of want to leave a space until the very next quarter note. So since I'm playing on the and a one, then I'm coming back in with my ride cymbal beat on beat 3, right? So something like this. Right? That gives me the space where I can break up the ride, but it still sounds flowing. Let's go to beat 2. This one's going to be easier because it kind of falls within the normal ride cymbal beat. Sounds like this. Okay, the next one is the and of 2. It's going to be very similar to the and of 1, where we're going to leave a little space right after it, like this. Right? You'll see with the back and forth of it all, what I'm doing at this tempo is I'm making my right hand go to where it would be on beat 3, but I'm getting there in the and of 2. So I'm anticipating it a little bit. And that's what's going to make the most sense coordination-wise. Now later, when you see me play this faster, you won't see as much of a difference between the back and forth at the faster tempos. Sometimes I just stay in this corner. But if you are going to go back and forth, that's how you do it. Now, we've done up to this point 1, and of 1, beat 2, and of 2. Let's play a couple of those in a row like this. Okay. Now, the thing is, the other ones are beat 3, and of 3, beat 4, and of 4. The cool thing about the swing pattern is that the coordination of those are going to be pretty much the same. So for today's video, I'm not going to go through all those ones, but you should if you're learning this for the first time so that you can play on any beat with comfort, okay? Now, up to this point, we've mostly worked on the technical part of playing brushes, but we also need to figure out how to integrate this musically. So in a second, I'm going to show you how to apply this to a bebop tune like Charlie Parker's Confirmation. But before we do this, brushes are not the only thing you need to become a complete jazz musician. If you want to play gigs with people, you gotta know vocabulary so you sound authentic. You gotta have good phrasing so you don't get lost in the form. And you gotta know the tunes that people play at jam sessions. So can't cover all of that in this video, but that is what I work on with my students at the jazz school. We give you everything you need to become a complete jazz musician, but you got to be really dedicated and ready to practice. If that's you, click the link in the description to get some more information and reach out about mentorship. Now, what we're going to do next is we're going to apply this brush copying to Confirmation by Charlie Parker. So what I've done here, and I'll put this up on the screen, is I've taken the lead sheet and I've written out good spots for accents, good spots that would make sense with the melody. Now, if I was playing this at a gig, I don't know if I would play every single one of these accents. It's going to be a little bit more, active than usual. A lot of times I'll just stay home and just get out of the way. But I kind of did this so we have a good etude that's going to get you focused on breaking up your right hand, but keeping the drive going, okay? So what you're going to see me doing is I'm going to be playing the accents with my right hand while the melody's going and keeping my left hand going. So we have a good example of the drive. Let's go ahead and jump in. there you go. If you practice comp drive coordination on the brushes, you're going to have the fluency to play anything that you hear just as well as you would with the sticks. If you found that interesting, you're probably going to like my video on 16 jazz brush techniques that every jazz drummer should know. If you want to watch that, just click here.